What is systems thinking and how you can apply it to thought? Imagine you're trying to understand why your car won't start. You could focus on individual parts. Maybe it's the battery or the spark plugs or the fuel pump. But a mechanic doesn't just look at isolated components. They understand that your car is a system where the electrical system connects to the fuel system, which works with the engine, which relies on the cooling system. Everything is interconnected, and the real answers often lie in understanding these relationships. This is systems thinking, the ability to see the big picture, understand how parts work together, and recognize that the whole is often greater than the sum of its parts. It's a way of looking at the world that focuses on connections, patterns, and relationships rather than just individual elements. In the business world, systems thinking has revolutionized how we understand organizations. Instead of seeing departments as separate units, successful companies recognize the intricate web of relationships between marketing, sales, production, customer service, and finance. When one department changes, it ripples through the entire organization. In nature, ecosystems demonstrate perfect systems thinking. A forest isn't just a collection of trees. It's a complex network where trees communicate through underground fungal networks, sharing nutrients and information. The health of the soil affects the trees, which influences the wildlife, which impacts pollination, which affects plant reproduction. Remove one element, and the entire system adapts and changes. But here's where it gets really interesting for you personally. Your mind operates exactly like these complex systems. Your thoughts, emotions, beliefs, habits, and behaviors aren't isolated events happening randomly in your head. They're all interconnected parts of a sophisticated mental system that's constantly influencing itself through feedback loops, patterns, and relationships you've probably never noticed. Most of us were taught to think about our minds in a very linear way. We have a problem, we think about it, we come up with a solution. We feel an emotion, we either accept it or try to change it. We want to develop a new habit, so we use willpower to force ourselves to do it. But this approach treats each mental event as a separate, isolated incident. Systems thinking reveals a completely different reality. Your thoughts influence your emotions, which affect your physical state, which impacts your decision-making, which shapes your actions, which create your results, which influence your beliefs about what's possible, which affect your future thoughts. It's all one interconnected system. Let's take a practical example. Say you want to become more confident. Linear thinking might tell you to just think more positive thoughts, or fake it till you make it. But systems thinking reveals that confidence exists within a web of relationships. Your confidence connects to your past experiences, your current physical posture, your breathing patterns, the people you spend time with, your sleep quality, your exercise habits, your self-talk patterns, and dozens of other factors. When you understand this, you realize you don't have to attack confidence directly. You might discover that improving your posture naturally shifts your mental state, which makes you feel more capable, which encourages you to take on new challenges, which builds real competence, which genuinely increases confidence. One small change in the system creates a cascade of positive effects. This is the power of leverage in mental systems. Just like a small rudder can steer a massive ship, small changes in the right places in your mental system can create profound transformations. But you have to understand the system to find these leverage points. Your belief system operates as a network too. Every belief you hold is connected to and supported by other beliefs. This is why it's so hard to change beliefs by arguing with them directly. When you try to force a belief change, you're fighting against an entire network of supporting beliefs, experiences, and mental habits. But when you understand your beliefs as a system, you can find the keystone beliefs, the ones that, when they shift, allow many other beliefs to reorganize naturally. Sometimes changing your belief about your ability to learn new things can transform your beliefs about career possibilities, relationship potential, and personal growth all at once. Your daily mental patterns reveal system dynamics too. Notice how certain thoughts tend to lead to other thoughts. Observe how specific emotions create predictable thought patterns. Pay attention to how your physical environment affects your mental clarity. These aren't random connections. They're system relationships that you can learn to work with consciously. The beautiful thing about applying systems thinking to your own mind is that it makes change both easier and more sustainable. Instead of fighting against your mental patterns with willpower, you learn to design conditions that naturally support the changes you want. Instead of trying to control every thought and emotion, you learn to influence the underlying structures that generate thoughts and emotions. For instance, if you struggle with negative thinking, systems thinking might lead you to examine your information diet. What news sources do you consume? What social media feeds do you follow? What conversations do you regularly engage in? These environmental inputs are part of your mental system, and changing them can naturally shift your thought patterns without any direct effort to think more positively. Or if you want to be more creative, instead of just trying to force creative thoughts, you might look at the system conditions that support creativity. When do your best ideas usually come? What environments stimulate your imagination? How does your physical state affect your creative capacity? What kinds of inputs fuel your creative thinking? By optimizing these system conditions, creativity begins to emerge naturally. The feedback loops in your mental system are particularly powerful once you become aware of them. Confidence creates action, which creates results, which builds more confidence. But it also works in reverse. Doubt creates hesitation, which creates poor results, which builds more doubt. Understanding these loops helps you consciously intervene to shift their direction. One of the most practical applications is recognizing that your attention is a system designer. Where you consistently focus your attention literally shapes your mental system over time. If you habitually focus on problems, your mind becomes very good at finding problems. If you train your attention on possibilities, your mind becomes skilled at recognizing opportunities. Same mental hardware, completely different mental software. This doesn't mean ignoring real problems or forcing false positivity. It means understanding that your attention patterns are actively shaping your mental system's capabilities and tendencies. You can become more intentional about where you direct this powerful system-shaping force. Starting to apply systems thinking to your thought doesn't require any special techniques or complicated practices. It begins with simply shifting your perspective from isolated events to interconnected patterns. Instead of asking, "How do I fix this thought?" you start asking, "What conditions are creating this pattern of thinking?" Instead of, "How do I force this change?" you ask, "What would naturally support this change?" You begin to notice the relationships between different aspects of your experience. How does your morning routine affect your mental state throughout the day? How do your relationships influence your self-talk? How does your physical environment impact your thinking quality? How do your entertainment choices affect your overall mental patterns? This awareness alone begins to transform your relationship with your own mind. You stop being a victim of random mental events and start becoming a conscious participant in your mental system's ongoing evolution. You realize that you're not just experiencing thoughts and emotions. You're part of a dynamic system that's constantly organizing and reorganizing itself based on countless influences, many of which you can consciously shape. The journey of applying systems thinking to thought is ongoing and endlessly fascinating. Your mental system is incredibly sophisticated, and understanding it more deeply is a lifelong exploration. But even beginning to see these systemic relationships will fundamentally change how you approach personal growth, problem-solving, and daily living. You'll stop trying to force change through willpower alone and start creating conditions that make positive change inevitable. You'll begin working with your mind's natural intelligence rather than against it. And you'll discover that sustainable transformation isn't about controlling every aspect of your mental experience. It's about understanding and partnering with the remarkable system that is your consciousness.